Information management refers to a cycle of organizational activity, beginning with the acquisition of information from one or more sources to ownership and custodianship, distribution of the said information to those who need the information. It specifically requires having the adequate tools to organize, evaluate, and efficiently manage information to ensure that it does not create chaos, disunity, disaffection, or any negative consequence to an individual or the society at large. Now, information management is an emerging field concerned with the infrastructure for the collection, preservation, storage, and delivery of the information to the end user. This episode of Frontiers intends to evaluate how governments have carried out this essential aspect of governance and what impact the effectiveness or non-effectiveness of sound information management has had on the Nigerian polity in recent times. Now we have in the studio one who is quite proficient in this discipline. He is, of course, Aniekan Umanah. He's the former Commissioner for Information, Akwa Ibom State. He has worked through 2 administrations for nearly 9 years. He's the President, African Media Network, and he has 25 years experience across media and public sector communication process. You're welcome to the program Frontiers.
Thank you very much.
So, who is an information manager?
Yes, an information manager is that man, that custodian, like you mentioned in your intro. He is that distributor. He is that man who accesses, who develops, who harnesses public information, internal information, external information for the benefit of the organization. In this case, for the public sector, for the benefit of the people and the benefit of the government.
Now, looking beyond just the definition of who an information manager is, what specifically is the goal of information management?
Well, the goal, if you like, they are varied. The goal would be to ensure a healthy system, a healthy society, to ensure an informed society, because there's an adage that says that an uninformed society is a deformed society. So the people want to understand what programs, what policies, what are the intendments of government or an organization in any given matter, program, or issue. So the goal is to ensure adequate understanding. The goal is to ensure adequate buy-in. And how do you do this? It's to ensure proper engagement, proper communication. I tend to align myself more with communication than information, because information tends to be understood or looked at from a one-directional approach. But if you're looking at communication, you're looking at a two-way engagement, and that makes it more important because of the feedback mechanics that comes to play.
Now I ask this question because, some people may begin to say that it's just a question of nomenclature, that government finds a way to just introduce something so that they can have wide range of people serving on similar issues. Now, how valid is information management to the survival or the growth of democracy in Nigeria and anywhere else?
You take away proper information, there can be no democracy. Democratic structures will collapse someday. Information is out because the people must understand. And there are varied levels of publics here. The internal publics, even within government. Government, for instance, even the Nigerian government as structured, is so wide that if there is no understanding even within government, that is where you can now find the disconnects that will begin to present government in bad light. It's like if you're coming out, for instance, a minister or a commissioner is asked a question about an administration and he says he doesn't know. And so that creates a disconnect. That, in fact, now brings lack of confidence from the public. So there must be the internal understanding of policies. That is where information or communication, if you like, plays a critical role. And for the people, there must be a buy-in. There must be proper understanding. For instance, government could have a well-intentioned program and so on. But if it's not communicated properly, the people may not see the need to buy into it. They may not even understand it. And of course, the wedge is created between government and the governed. And when that happens, there's a lack of trust. When there's lack of trust, then the government is in comatose, is suffering ab initio. And it begins to breed problems that you cannot manage, because the connection, there must be a connection between government and the governed. Even when things are difficult, even when tough times are there, people must understand the reasons why. They must know why certain things must happen. They must know why certain things cannot happen. even when certain things are not done. It must be communicated properly. There will be people who will see the viewpoint and begin to assimilate them and then apply logic to such ideas until it settles.
How do you distinguish between information management and lies of a sort? You know, it has been said severally that politicians are actually not sound information managers, and you cannot hold them to their words either presently or in the past. Now, what's your view on this?
No, I don't agree with the last point that politicians are not good information managers, because the politician is the greatest information man. The politician, at any opportunity, he will tell you everything he has to tell you because he may not have another opportunity.
But when you come to the believability of that.
Believability is a different thing, because you see, that is where communication becomes important. That is where citizens' engagement becomes important. As a political office holder, as an elected official, the structures are there. That's why people in the legislature are supposed to be giving their people constituency briefing. They must go back to the constituency and tell the people what they are doing, what they have experienced, and other policies that they should understand, why certain things are happening. If those things are kept strictly, the people will understand and they will have the opportunity to ask questions.
Some Nigerians
but
have said,
politicians are not liars.
I don't agree to that. I want to follow up on that.
There are people who may, out of their own system or beliefs or family nuances, are liars. If you're a liar, you're a liar. You don't need to be a politician. If you're a liar, you're a liar. Even in the church, in the school, everywhere, wherever. If you're a liar, you're a liar. If you're a truthful person, you're a truthful person. And that is a function of your upbringing. It's a function of your moral and your value system. So being a politician does not make you a liar. But you see, understanding the policies and positions of politicians or political office holders, elected and appointed, become very critical. And what will bring forth this? Communication, sitting down, putting things on the table. Some call it dialogue, of course, that where there are issues. Some call it discussion, engagement. When you engage, the likelihood is that you will get the best. Even in the church, in the family, sit down and not talk to your wife and your children for 1 year. You will be a distant daddy.
No, but very quickly, because I need to put a word across. People have said that passiveness, actually, of the Nigerian followership is actually part of the problem, where politicians come up with statements that they cannot hold on to. And because you have a passive followership, you see situations where people just allow things to go.
No, they do. The Nigerian public isn't passive. They may not have the platform. In a country of over 170 million people, they may not have the platform. So many people are still in the rural areas. So they may not have the platform. Yes, thank God for the global system for mobile communication, where people can at least send text messages. Go to the National Assembly today and ask the members how many text messages they are getting from their people daily. People are looking for jobs, they are not passive. People are asking for roads, they are not passive. They are asking for electricity, they are not passive. I know some legislators that have set up community centers where they have information and have feedback, and they are able to pursue these things through ministerial approach, through different ministries, or through different bills and presentations and so on. But the people should not be seen as passive. If you think they are passive, when election comes, you will understand that they are not passive, because they have a clear understanding of what they want. And if you're not doing that, then there's a problem. That is where communication or information becomes key. Once government engages, people will understand. And when you call a town hall, when you call a community meeting, you will understand that people are not passive, including the ones that are not as literate as we thought. They know what they need. Okay. They know what they want for their society, right, and they will ask for them. All and right. They have the right to decide what they want.
All right. Earlier we were talking about this particular administration and its own templates employed for information management. Looking at the information it's carrying out in the area of insurgency, in the area of security precisely, how would you score them?
Yes, first I want to start by commending the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, for the commitment and efforts he has shown in fighting insurgency, particularly in the Northeast, and other skirmishes coming out of the Niger Delta and other parts of Nigeria. It's important because the leadership of the country must show that level of commitment to keep the country in unity and also to ensure safety of lives and property. It's very important. So that's the starting point. From a purely informational standpoint, I think there was a disconnect which is gradually being corrected from what I can see today from my own perspective. This is in my opinion. I think they're beginning to correct what was wrong, because the people never believed what was being dished out only from the military sources. And you know, the military, they have their own way and approaches to information management. It's not a very open organization. And it must be understood that in such a structured and regimented organization, it is not an open-ended thing. It has to be structured, and you have to give that to them. But for the government machinery, also almost acting in a military fashion will not work, because the citizens may understand and forgive the military because that is their approach and training. They will not understand and forgive those who are managing democratic structures, which brings to bear the issues of engagement. I have seen recently some actions being taken to give the citizens some sense of truthfulness and engagement. For instance, the recent visit to Sambisa Forest, organized by the federal government, that took the NGO running the Bring Back Our Girls campaign to that part of the world, gives confidence, because to the minds of people, I've interacted with people, so many don't even think that, yes, people don't even think there is a Sambisa Forest. So many people don't even think that the Chibok girl thing is true.
So in other words, you must carry the people along.
You must carry the people along. So people have gone there, they have seen, and they are now understanding the efforts being made. They will appreciate the military more, and they will appreciate the commitment and investment made by government. And I think we need more of this, and we need more of community engagement. Even if we have to spend money to engage the communities.
Okay, let's just quickly
to engage the people, community-based organizations,
precisely,
and let them understand this, and so on, and so that when the discussion comes, everybody is flowing from a standpoint of knowledge. Okay. And I think that is important.
Okay, let's focus attention on information management template in developed economies, developed countries. Now, what precisely do they do there that is actually what we should be doing in Nigeria?
Free flow and sincerity. It has to flow. It just must flow. There is nothing to hide in the public domain. I see people carry file the stamp secret when 40 people will see it before it gets to treasury.
Exclusive information.
So what is exclusive? There's nothing really exclusive in government, even when we have the need to know. Under the need to know, somebody will still carry that need to know to somebody. So there's really nothing. So the important thing is when there's the sincerity, when there's transparency, when there's the rule of law, of course everything stays transparent, and that is what happens in other crimes, which we must deliberately do as a country.
Is information management not holding on to information until a critical time when you can release this information to the people?
No, there are certain matters, there are certain matters that cannot be put out at a certain time, because there are certain things that must be processed. There are certain information that are capable of igniting chaos.
So how can you take that side by side with being sincere?
All of those will have to be managed. That's why I said they need to know. There are people who need to know certain things so they can manage it well. There are certain issues that will not have to get to the public domain until the strategy and proper understanding is achieved by those managing it. Even in the family level, there are sometimes people die in a family. A father could die and they will not tell the wife immediately because they don't want her to collapse or run into a high BP situation. Then you now begin to find a process, maybe somebody that she can listen to, beginning to break the information or the news gradually. That is the whole gamut of processing. But that is not to mean holding back. You can never completely hold back. It must come if the society must grow, if democracy must grow, information must be at the domain of the people.
Now, what is crisis? What is crisis management, basically?
Crisis management, as the word goes, crisis. It's a very broad area.
So do you allow information to get to that extent?
No, information does not need to get to crisis management. Crisis management is a totally different realm or subject within information management. But of course, if the right information is put out, if there's proper communication and proper engagement, it will never get to crisis because the people understand. If, for instance, I remember when government was raising the prices of petroleum products and so on. For me, there are certain things, because everybody understood clearly the problems of the economy and so on. Yes, that there's no running away from these things. But there are people who never understood it. They just felt, oh, this is just to further impoverish and so on. Labor engagement, citizen engagement, community-based organizations, National Assembly engagement, who are representatives of the people, State House of Assembly members engagement at different levels so that you have a buy-in. We can reduce crisis. jumping up to dish out information and so on will now turn to propaganda.
It can actually lead to the crisis.
It can lead it to the crisis, because at that point it becomes propaganda, because it will come with half-truths and so on, because you're trying to arrest a situation by force. It will water that would have run through very slowly until it gets to where it's going. Once you open it at once and so on, you will take anything. You will take the sand and all of those, and even take the sand to where you didn't think it should get to.
Okay, we must stop there at this moment. We'll take a short break. We are talking with Aniekan Umanah. He's the former Commissioner for Information in Akwa Ibom State, and he has worked through 2 administrations for nearly 9 years. We'll take a short break at this point. The program Frontiers continues in a moment. Great to have you back on the program Frontiers, and we have with us Aniekan Umanah, a former Commissioner for Information in Akwa Ibom State. And of course, we are discussing sound information management. Now, there's this issue, see no evil, hear no evil. This may be the appropriate way to describe the national media's information style for the federal government. So now, why is this so?
Quite frankly, my brother, take it or leave it. You will see evil, you will hear evil. But ability to sieve, manage, and ensure you reduce evil and hear less, and ensure that the good comes, that is what makes the difference. So the people want the good. The people want positive development. The people want development. They want to ensure that livelihood is better. The people want to ensure that they can live, they can take care of themselves, they have shelter, they have security.
But there are inhibitions for the federal government media organizations that cannot make them to actually rise above some of these issues.
Yeah, it's not just the federal government media organizations. It is the media set up as it is in this part of the world, in Africa, in Nigeria, but at the federal, state, and local government level.
They all have
they have issues. These departments are the least funded. The entirety of the budget of the Federal Ministry of Information may not be up to Bill 1 of consultancy for just one project in the Ministry of Works. The entirety. Yet it's saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that the populace is kept informed, that the populace is kept abreast, and then when there is a problem, everybody runs back to that part. Yet it's not funded. Sometimes you go into some departments or ministries, and so particularly the Ministry of Information, even at the state and local government level, is the same thing. I've had the opportunity of being in the center of this for many years, and so on. In some states it's better. We had the privilege of doing a lot of work in Akwa Ibom, and which is still going on, depending on the understanding of the leadership of that state at the time. But I want to use this opportunity to make a case for the proper funding of the information machinery of government. Whether it's at the presidential level, the office of the presidential spokesman must have enough money to work, because the public, the media, you must engage, and it's costly to engage. The Federal Ministry of Information must be funded properly. Engagement is not cheap. Attempt even do a birthday for your child. Not to talk of engaging 500 people, 1,000 people. It's an expensive process. They cannot be seen to be going cap in hand begging, because that itself dilutes the whole essence and the existential value of that organization. And when that happens, how can people trust an organization that's coming cap in hand begging, and so on? There are organizations like the NTA at certain level. Because the social service is a greater portion of this, it must also be funded. It cannot be totally commercial because of the social service input. And for those of us who understand the percentages that you put into social service, into projecting governmental programs and activities, it must have support. It cannot run totally commercial.
Now going back,
and these are the things that must be looked into. So those who are producing, managing, allocating national, state, or local budgets must begin to see the need to fund national, state, and local information and communications management. It is critical.
Now going back to the information disseminated by the state media stations, just like you said, at the federal government, and even the private owned media organizations, there is something lacking, and that is the editorial guidelines are always dictated by the ownership of such media organizations.
Well, we must be truthful to ourselves here that even in the objectivity and professionalism of journalism, ownership influence somehow must find a layer, because there's always interest, take it or leave it. as NTA, the first instance that national interest is important to all of us.
Definitely.
Here, and so on. And then people have different things set up for different reasons. With more than 50 television stations in this country and over 200 varied radio stations, and so some states even have up to 30, 40, and so on. Some 8, 10. A state like Abia, there's up to 8 stations. There in Akwa Ibom, you have about 4 or 5. The states there and some other private one, the Federal Radio Corporation, and so on. And then even the coming of the internet, even in the different platforms that you find with citizen journalism coming on, and so on, you find underlying interest. But interest must be positive. There's nothing wrong with interest. Interest must be positive. If the interest is the development and growth of Nigeria, and so on, and if they accuse NTA of having interest in the government pursuing development, please let it be, as long as the country is good for us. Yes, but interest should not be parochial. You cannot take it away. People have invested in this thing. There are certain international stations that will not take one advertising from anybody. Have you ever seen advertising on Al Jazeera? It's serving an interest, and so on. There are some that are totally commercial, and they're driven by commercial interest.
Yes, I was going to ask if you have similarities with the situation you have on ground in Nigeria with international stations like Al Jazeera. You just mentioned, like BBC.
Well, we just gave an instance.
Yes.
In all of what the BBC would do, of course, the British interest is paramount. Take it or leave it. There's no way NTA can absolve itself from the national interest. There is no way Al Jazeera will absolve itself from the interest.
The BBC has its own interest in Africa.
BBC has its own interest too in Africa. Even Radio France International, if you want, they have their own interest in Africa. They want to project the best of what's happening in the Francophones, and so on. So this interest, you cannot take it out. But you see, the truthfulness and sincerity of interest is what matters. The truthfulness and the communication values, the existential value, the value chain, the returns, the overflow effect that leads to development become very important and critical, and we cannot absorb these things.
Now, you're involved in the African Media Network with branches in Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and Ghana. What is it all about, and how has it actually helped the growth of democracy in Africa? Thank you very much. African Media Network, as the name implies, is a network that's propelling growth and opportunities for the African media, for the continental media. And it's running on what we are trying to do or doing with that organization now is to set a new narrative for the African media and begin to present it from the standpoint of knowledge, from the standpoint of professionalism, from the standpoint of people who are properly trained, who can compete anywhere on earth. So we are working on this initiative, and we have network partners in all of those countries that you have mentioned, in Nairobi, in Johannesburg, in Ghana, here in Nigeria, operating out of Abuja. Yeah, we are doing a lot of work in that direction. We've hinged our thinking on 3 major planks. That is strategy, developing new strategy that will propel a new visibility and new value for the media in Africa. And then content is key, because we want to harness and mobilize content that will help grow the media, that will help facilitate some of these things. There are a lot of talents scattered everywhere, but we're not harnessing them properly, and so on. Have you ever thought of, I was still imagining, I was discussing with some people in Multi-Choice DSTV the other day, and I was looking at one thing we are doing right now. We're building a Sight and Sound Nigeria, and we intend to do that across Africa, funding and other indices and parameters everything else. It's so great. We have so much, even in this country. The resources and content alone that we can mobilize, it's a lot of money. It's a lot that can help the media go. How well are we doing this? Do we have a structured format to get this done? How are we encouraging our people? How are we finding these talents and pushing them? So many of them are earning good money on platforms like Google. You see what they're announcing, and so on. That huge media outfit, Google, Facebook, all of these huge media outfits, the people are earning well, just developing and building content. Content is everything. Without content, this television is not here. So we're doing that strategy. We've talked about it. We've talked about content. And of course, research is key, which will be about capacity enhancement, developing new ideas and new ways of doing things. And now we're getting a lot of receptions. We'll be having some huge summits where we'll be having the entirety of the media in Africa come together so that we'll continue to discuss these things, beginning with Abuja, and then we will move to other countries. Thank you so much, Aniekan. Now, as a parting shot, what advice will you be giving to this particular administration in terms of information management? They should continue to engage. Engagement is key. Communication, feedback, and then, of course, sincerity in the process
People must believe, must trust what is coming out. If your son does not trust what is coming out of you, I bet you that house is on fire. Your children, your household must trust you as the father, and they must trust what is coming out. It does not matter. And when it's passing from you through the mother, through the elder brothers, and so on, you must flow in a truthful manner, and the feedback that goes back must also be such that can be accepted, understood, assimilated, and explained to others. When that happens, I think we'll have a better society. Our democracy will grow. It will boom, and of course, certain things will begin to happen that we never expected.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I must thank you, Aniekan Umanah, the former Commissioner for Information, Akwa Ibom State. Thank you so much for being on the program Frontiers and sharing your wealth of experience and knowledge on that issue with us.
I thank you so much. I want to thank NTA for all the support you've extended to Akwa Ibom State in the past, and I hope you will continue to do so.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It
you.
is on that note that we wish to conclude the program Frontiers. Join us again next time. Thanks for watching.